Welcome to our program, Your Right to Know, Our Pleasure to Tell. Here you are given an extent of how the United Progressive Party has served you for the last 5 to 10 years. Sitting with us today is the Minister of Education, Youth and Gender Affairs, Madam President, Honorable Leandro, Jacqui Quinn Leandro. Welcome to our program.
Thank you. It is my pleasure to be here.
First of all, I've tried to repeat that name correctly for so long. Let's use it. Honorable Jacqui Quinn Leandro.
Yes, sure.
Thank you for being here.
Yes, it's my pleasure to be here, Nikki.
Thank you, and thank you for finding some time to speak with us today. Let's jump right into our conversation. How do you rate the government's maintenance of education in Antigua and Barbuda?
Well, I would say over the last 10 years, we have done exceptionally well in terms of building the human resources of Antigua and Barbuda. Certainly my tenure, the last 5 years, I would hate to be immodest, but I would like to categorize and to describe the last 5 years as also very well. We have done quite a lot in terms of our accomplishments, in terms of how we have been able to assist our schools, our teachers, our parents, and generally the human resource development of Antigua and Barbuda. And if you're asking for a rating, I would say education would get 75 to 80% out of 100.
Excellent. I get excited. That's an A. That is an A. We're aiming for an A+. Okay. Minister, you're in charge also of youth empowerment. What has the government of Antigua and Barbuda been doing with regards to youth empowerment?
Youth empowerment has had its ups and downs. And again, if I were to rate the youth, the strides that we have made in terms of youth development, I would give us 70 to 75%.
That's an A.
That's an A. When we look at the opportunities that this government would have created over the last 10 years for young people, in terms of scholarships, in terms of jobs, in terms of land opportunities, in terms of entrepreneurial opportunities. I think that we have made some significant strides. And that is why I'm so confident in giving an A in terms of youth empowerment.
You know, I must rate your performance as a minister. I'm going to get a little personal. And I say I do highly value your work and the dedication that you've been giving to Antigua and Barbuda. So I give you an A.
Oh, thank you.
You're welcome. Let's talk a little bit more about the significant achievement. We've mentioned a little bit about education. We've spoken a little bit about youth empowerment. But the 5 most significant achievement of the United Progressive Party government.
Well, I wanted to, last night when I tried to recall some of the major things that this government would have done over the last 10 years. And I came up with over a dozen things in education, but I tried to rank what are the most significant things that would have happened in terms of education. We start first with the school meals program. That program has certainly revolutionized how the teaching learning environment, because as you know, there is a correlation between whether a child is hungry, whether a child is able to have the right attention span, and whether a child can learn in an environment in which the worms are calling. And so when the government decided to do the school meals program and to offer a hot, nutritious meal to the children of our primary schools, it was with that in mind. And that program has certainly taken quite a lot of burden off of single parents, even parents who are in nuclear families, in providing a hot lunch. That has enhanced the learning environment, the teaching environment, because we have had stories of teachers having to give their lunches or to spend monies for children who would come to school and fall asleep right away because they hadn't had breakfast and they did not have money for lunch or a snack provided for them. So the school meals program has helped many of our vulnerable parents, and certainly it has been a program in which we have opened to all and sundry. The school meals program has also helped with the employment of many young people, chefs, certainly farmers who are providing vegetables, livestock, meats, fish, the fisher folk. So it has had a major impact not only on education, but on other sectors of the economy, as well as providing employment for all of the centers, the 23 centers, school centers, the central kitchen. The school meals program is certainly one of the outstanding achievements of the United Progressive Party government. I'd move quickly, secondly, to the school uniform grant program. Again, that program was a targeted social program meant to assist vulnerable, less fortunate persons who did not have uniforms, because every summer in August, September, when school is about to start, you'd have parents trying to find the monies for shoes and for uniforms, for bags, and for all of the requirements for the academic year. This government said, okay, let's take some of the burden off of parents in providing those uniforms. And so the school uniform program is also one of the great achievements. And I just wanted to share some of the important statistics with you, Nikki, about the school uniform grant program. In 2004, we offered 39,549 vouchers to children, parents and children in the school uniform program. In 2005, 42,162. In 2006, 54,744. This was when we were offering 2 uniforms per child. 2007, 62,348. 2008, 60,697. 2009, 70,449.
Wow.
2010, 80,206. In 2011, 40,982. You would notice that it goes down because we started offering, when the economic crisis hit, we started offering only one uniform per child. In 2012, 24,656, and in 2013, 30,000. Now, for the years 2004 to 2012, we have paid 19,454,675 and the cents, 19 cents, to providers. We have empowered scores of vendors, retailers, manufacturers, seamstresses, persons who are involved in making uniforms and providing and buying and selling uniforms. And those persons who are on that school uniform program, particularly the small seamstress in Potters or in Willie Keys, who is able to make perhaps 20, 25, 30 uniforms. That helps in that person's small industry. So the school uniform programs is not just providing a uniform, it is creating jobs, and certainly has a lot of economic spin-offs for those persons involved in manufacturing uniforms.
But $19 million just to add to the advancement of education in Antigua and Barbuda.
Absolutely, absolutely. And so the school uniform grant program is certainly one of those great programs which has, it's a social program which has all of the spin-offs for economic development for individuals who have the entrepreneurial spirit in Antigua and Barbuda. Universal secondary education.
Third significant achievement?
Is a significant achievement. I want to say to you, Nikki, that universal secondary education came with a lot of planning and preparation by the Ministry of Education and by the government of Antigua and Barbuda. When this UPP government decided that we would embark on USE and ensure that every child who leaves primary school has an opportunity to have a secondary education. We did so with the knowledge that it is in building our human resources, in building the individual potential of every child in Antigua and Barbuda, that we would improve the economic development of Antigua, of the country. Because no country can claim to be developed if it does not invest in its human resources,
Yes.
it does not invest in the education of its people. And so when our Prime Minister, our esteemed Prime Minister Baldwin Spencer, sat down with the cabinet and said, let us move towards USE and let us enable and endow the Ministry of Education with all that is required for USE, it was with that in mind. Now, Antigua and Barbuda is the last country in the Caribbean, not just the OECS, the entire CARICOM region, to have universal secondary education.
The last country?
When we got into office, there were so many other countries, Dominica, St. Lucia, they were all moving full steam ahead with universal secondary education because we have signed on to the UN conventions, which speak to the Millennium Development Goals, and one of those goals is universal secondary education. We had had universal primary education. Every child has access to a primary school education. But we had still retained that elitist system where you stream some children out. You know, you had the old system where you had some children going on to junior secondary, where some children couldn't get into a secondary school because they had not passed the common entrance exam. So we set up a system where you have the national assessments, the grade 2 national assessment exams, the grade 4 national assessment exams, and then we have the grade 6 national assessment, which would allow students to go on to secondary school. Now, one of the things that the ministry had to do was to ensure that there was space, physical space in the school plants for all of these children who are going to go on to secondary school. So we converted a number of junior secondary schools into secondary schools. Glanville's is one of the new secondary schools under this UPP government. St. Mary's Secondary is a new secondary school, and Irene B. Williams Secondary at Sweets. Those 3 schools were converted to allow for more space, certainly more labs, equipping them with the human resources with the teachers to allow more children to go on to secondary school. Now, we know, and we get the criticism, a secondary school is not a secondary school just because it has a sign saying it is a secondary school. You must be teaching secondary education in that school. And we know that there were some limitations. And that is why we decided the national assessments at grade 2 and grade 4 were critical for students moving on to grade 6, so that any kind of failures, any remediation that would be required at grade 2 and grade 4 would be done based on those assessments, those continuous assessments that we're doing in the primary school. The measurement and evaluation department decided, look, we need the remediation down there so that when they actually go to grade 6 and then to Form 1, they do have that foundation to do secondary school work. So, I mean, I hear the criticism, oh, you're just watering down things and you're sending everybody on and you must weed out and you must have...
And that reference of up and out system, you know, you've heard that also.
That's right. That's right. But what we want to do is to make sure that there's a solid foundation. And so the measurement and evaluation department, which we strengthened by training persons in measurement and evaluation, was aimed at setting that foundation. And one of the ways in which we also set that foundation is to place more emphasis on early childhood. Because we have found those children who go on, and you would see among your peers, you know, persons who have gone through primary preschool, those students who do preschool, who have a preschool foundation, tend to do better in primary school, in secondary school, and certainly in tertiary institutions. And so we decided, let us shore up, let us undergirth the preschool education, the early childhood sector. And so we went about standardizing the early childhood centers across Antigua and Barbuda. You know, many of our early childhood centers were just businesses. Somebody decided, I want to take in a few children in my home,
Open a
I'm going to convert a
school, yeah,
room,
yeah.
and it's a business. But the early childhood department led by Erla Esdale, a phenomenal woman who does a lot of work in this area, they decided, let us standardize these early childhood centers across the country. Let us regulate them. Let us put in standards by which we expect them to operate. And so that was done. The government then decided that we would embark on public preschools. So we opened one at Simon Bolivar in 2008.
Yes.
That was under the leadership of my predecessor, Mr. Bertrand Joseph. And then in 2013, we opened one in Villa and in Green Bay. And we targeted those areas where there are more vulnerable persons who are less fortunate, who would not be able to afford a preschool. So we said, let us have these public preschools. And when we were opening the Green Bay preschool, the Prime Minister, in whose constituency this is, said to the gathering there, what is the policy of the government? We are going to replicate these public preschools all across Antigua and Barbuda to ensure that that foundation is laid to prepare our children for primary school and then secondary school. Yeah. So universal early childhood education is a goal that we have to try to meet as we begin to have these public preschools. And I want to say that Potters is the next in line for that public
like how you slid that in.
That's right. I have to look out for my people. So the universal secondary education and making sure that the foundation is laid at early childhood, at primary with our national assessments. That is one of the achievements, certainly, of the United Progressive Party government. Now I come to one of the achievements that actually gives me goosebumps, the completion of the National Public Library.
The National Public Library.
Now, Nikki, I'm sure you're not 40 yet.
No, very far from it.
Very far from it. Now, you would have grown up in this country without a proper National Public Library.
Yes.
October 2014, this year, will make 40 years. 40
Honorable
years.
Leandro, 40 years, 40 years of not having a national library, national public library in Antigua and Barbuda?
That's right. And we under our stewardship, we would have been here for 10 of those 40 years.
Yes.
We've had some challenges and so on. But we're talking about 30 years that the previous government did not see the necessity to prioritize a national public library. A library is a symbol of your country's intellectual development. It is a symbol that you have an interest in education.
It is.
It is a symbol that you have an interest in books and knowledge and all the wide plethora of information that you can get in a public library. It is a symbol that you are serious about human resource development.
Yes.
And so the 9th of this month, next week, Wednesday, we are going to be dedicating the new public library, and we're going to be having a soft opening. Excellent. Now, a soft opening because we're still awaiting the shelving, the furniture. We have professional outfitters, library outfitters coming out of Miami who are bringing all of these things in. And so on Wednesday, we certainly invite all of Antigua and Barbuda to come to the National Public Library for that dedication. I feel extremely thrilled to be able to say to the people of Antigua and Barbuda, the UPP did it. We opened that public library. It was very challenging, all of the problems in terms of getting the work completed. As you know, we had the Public Works start that program back in the 1990s. And then ABSEL, Antigua and Barbuda Contractors Enterprises Limited, a consortium of local contractors came together and took over the project along with the Board of Education. And they have had a lot of change orders. They've had a lot of problems in terms of the construction, things that went bad. which they had to rectify.
Yes.
But we are there now.
We are there now.
We now can open the doors of a
Yes.
national public library. And I'm hoping that for the September term, all of the fittings will be done, all of the
Yes.
books will be transferred from that little place on Market Street to our brand new public library. So, am I at 4 yet?
You're at 4, so you should give me the 5th one.
The 5th one.
I think you said you had
Okay.
about 12, you know, but...
I do. The other thing I wanted to indicate, because, you know, many times we take for granted the tertiary education
Yes.
sector. This government, and this is the 5th achievement, this government since 2004 would have given to the young people of this country over 3,000 scholarships. We have placed so much emphasis on youth development, on our human resource development, that we felt those persons who normally would not have access to a tertiary education, let us invest in our young people by giving tangible support. So the Prime Minister went out in his as Minister of Foreign Affairs and got a number of scholarships from Greece, from Morocco, from Russia, from China, from all over the globe. You have Antiguans and Barbudans studying a wide plethora of subjects.
Yes.
And I think our scholarship program is one of the greatest achievements of this government.
Yes.
I get goosebumps when a father or mother comes to me and says, Dr. Leandro, my daughter or my son is graduating next week and I'm going up to Midwestern, or I'm going to University of the West Indies in Jamaica for the graduation.
Yes.
And this, my child, is the first person in a generation in my family to ever graduate from university.
Yes.
I get very emotional.
Achievement.
And then they say, thanks to the UPP government,
Yes.
thanks to the Board of Education, that I was able to do that, because if I didn't get a scholarship, that child would not have been able to go to university.
Yes.
I get very emotional when I get that from parents. And you have hundreds of people who would not have had the opportunity. We know in the previous administration how selective they were in terms of granting scholarships, in terms of persons going off to universities. It was who you knew. You had to know a minister, you had to be related to a minister. There was rank nepotism in the granting of scholarships. Scholarships used to go a begging. I remember when I was going off to do my master's, it was a Commonwealth scholarship was being offered. And it was being offered throughout the OECS at the time. And I was back and forth in the Ministry of Education at the time. And the scholarship almost went to somebody else from the OECS because, you know, persons in the Ministry of Education at the time were hoarding that and that kind of information and did not want to see young people go off to do their scholarship. When I was doing my PhD, a Minister of Education said to me, what are you going to do with that? What are you going to do with that? Can you imagine that?
Wow.
You are a young person wanting to go off to do a doctorate, and the Minister of Education is saying to that person, you know, discouraging in such a disparaging way, what are you going to do with that?
Yes.
Well, thank God I did.
Knowledge is
Here
power.
am I.
Indeed, indeed. Hopefully that minister is home watching right now.
Well, I believe so.
So we've touched on 5 most significant, but surely, Madam Minister, there are some things that are undone.
Yes.
What makes you still so assertive and upbeat about the progress that the Ministry of Education and the United Progressive Party government have made thus far?
I am upbeat because we have accomplished so much in such a short space of time. And when you compare our 10 years with the over 3 decades of the Labour Party, I would like them to point to the things that they would have accomplished in 30 years
Yes.
or 28 years. of the administration in terms of tangible, solid achievements. Those 5 things are only five achievements in 10 years. Of course, there are lots of things that, as you mentioned, that we still have to get done. For instance, the University of Antigua and Barbuda, I would like in our 3rd term that we advance discussions with the University of the West Indies and with other partnering universities so that Antiguans can stay right here and get a degree. Because when you go to Jamaica and Trinidad and Barbados that have those campus territories of the University of the West Indies, degrees come a dime a dozen. Sometimes you go down to McDonald's or KFC and you find that the person who is serving you has a degree, has an associate's degree, you know. So we want our young people to be able to do their full degrees here. As it stands now at the State College, you can do 2 years, a 2-year program, but you still have to go to one of the campuses of the University of the West Indies, St. Augustine, Cavell, or Mona to complete the degree. So advance in the University of Antigua and Barbuda, and that a lot of groundwork has been done, a lot of due diligence has been done by the University of Antigua Barbuda Committee, which the Prime Minister and the Cabinet set up 2 years ago. So we have a lot of work to do with that in that regard. We still have the Five Islands Secondary School to complete. I was very happy yesterday on the tour that the Chinese said to us, you know, we're cutting this construction short by almost a year, you know. So that school is going to be opened at the end of 2014, December 2014. We also still have the new secondary school at Tomlinson's. We just signed off on a loan agreement with the Caribbean Development Bank. And that school at Tomlinson's, which is to shore up our USC drive, will have an early childhood center and a measurement and evaluation center. And again, that is going to take some of the pressure off of all of our secondary schools as we move towards making sure that every child has a secondary education. We have the Learning Resource Center at the Antigua State College, which is incomplete. That's an eyesore. And I mean, when I talk about it, I get very angry because, I mean, is a project that started with the European Union, and you know, things went bad with the contractor, and the contractor pulled out and breached certain agreements and so on, and the funding dried up. So that Learning Resource Center has to be complete. The fencing of the State College, we've just passed the Antigua Barbuda State College Act, making the State College a statutory organization run by a board. So putting that in place and getting the State College up and running as a semi-autonomous body, those are things that are still, you know, left to be done. So, I mean, I am not going to be intellectually dishonest and say that this has been all perfect and all hunky-dory. There are things that still need to be done. Special education is an area, for instance, that we still have a lot of work to do. When I got into the Ministry of Education, I discovered that special education was never a priority. You know, it was very much on the back burner. We decided, look, we need to follow the Education Act, set up a Special Education Council, and begin to work at helping those children who have special needs. Yes, we have the adult school. Yes, we have the school for the blind. Yes, we have the school for the deaf and the resource center on Factory Road and so on. But there are still children in our mainstream schools who require individual education plans and who have to be looked after, who are dyslexic, who might be ADHD or who are autistic. So we have to make sure that we have a diagnostic center. And that is one of the things that we still have to complete. The diagnostic center. I'm very happy that Dr. Mantua has come on board with Lyme to design this HEART program, which is going to address special needs in a tangible way.
With Lyme or with Digicel?
With Lyme. With
Lyme?
I think this one is with Lyme.
Okay.
Yes,
okay.
This one is with Lyme. And this is going to be a phenomenal program because it is going to see the construction of a special needs center, which is going to have the diagnostic center where you can have children going to be diagnosed with whatever special needs they have. It's going to have the school for the deaf, the school for the blind, and it's going to be a full multi-purpose center that deals with special needs. And I know, once Dr. Manso gets involved,
Yes.
he's going to push it.
We know it's done. Let's call that done.
That's right. That's right. So there's still a lot of things that are outstanding. And, once the people of Antigua and Barbuda decide to give us that third term, those are matters that will be completed.
Okay. Madam Minister, let's talk a little bit about youth empowerment and some of the significant achievements by the United Progressive Party over the past 5 to 10 years.
Yes. One of the things that we decided when we got into office is that youth needed to have a department totally devoted to them. So we set up a department of youth. We of course, we seconded Cleon Athil. She was teaching at the time at Princess Margaret School, a counselor of high repute, very passionate about young people, and she became the director of youth affairs. So we set up a department that deals specifically with young people's needs. And they have been doing a phenomenal job. They have had a number of sessions, training programs. They have designed a youth policy. They certainly have been collaborating with the youth associations across CARICOM. And they are very energetic. You would know that the Youth Ambassador Corps, they go out and do a lot of work in the vineyard, making sure that young people feel validated. They feel empowered, and they feel that the government has an interest in their needs, desires, and goals. The other thing that we did was the National Youth Awards. Now, some people may say, oh, that's just one night of celebrating young people. It is important. It is very important that we celebrate and validate what our young people are doing, whether it is in sports, in media, in agriculture, in industry, in business. We pick out the brightest and the best, and we say to you, you have done exceptionally well, and we award you, we put you on the stage so that all the other young people can be inspired, that you can be an example for all of these, to all of these young people to aspire. So the National Youth Awards is like the Grammys, the academies for young people in Antigua and Barbuda. And, you see them, all the awards that they get in these different areas. And that is something that's ongoing. Then our commitment to ICTs. When we took office, I mean, where was our internet penetration at the time? I don't think people can recall, because now everywhere you go, you can get access to the internet. Everybody has a tablet. Everybody has a laptop. The Ministry of Telecommunications, Science and Technology, Dr. Mansour's ministry, made a targeted effort very early in our administration, starting with the community access centers. And then these mobile IT buses. Those were targeted at young people, making sure that persons have access. A lot of young people were saying, look, I have this research project to do, this SBA, I have to go to my neighbors or to borrow my teachers or stay in school. The community access centers were intended to assist those persons who needed to go into the communities. The mobile IT centers were intended to do that. But more than that, after those IT centers were set up, the ministry decided to ramp it up even more. And over the last 2 years, we've been giving tablets and computers. So teachers, over 1,600 teachers, were able to get laptops, and over 3,000 students in secondary schools, both public and private, public and private schools, were able to get tablets. It is an investment. It is an investment in our young people. Because we want our young people, when they leave Antigua and Barbuda, or when they leave school, to be marketable, to be just as good just as exceptional as the child who's in Miami,
Yes.
or in Jamaica, or in Trinidad, or in Barbados. And Antigua's ICT penetration under this United Progressive Party government is now the envy of the rest of the Caribbean. I think Dr. Mansour had some ministers from Samoa or one of those, the Solomon Islands,
Yes.
who came here just to see what he was doing with this gate facility.
I think I remembered them mentioning about
Absolutely
that. Yes.
phenomenal. And we are talking about an investment in young people.
Yeah.
Now, if I move on very quickly, the development of our sporting facilities, again, an investment in the talents and skills of our young people. When the Ministry of Sports decided to put floodlights on all of or most of the sporting facilities, cricket, football, it was to say to the young people, some of them who may have jobs, some of them in school, you can come and practice your craft. You can come and play sports after 5 o'clock in the evenings, knock yourselves out. Because what you're doing with creating that enabling environment for young people to hone their skills at sports is that you're taking them off the streets.
Yes.
You're taking them away from drugs and deviant behavior, because when you play a good game of football or cricket all evening, you don't have no time to go and get involved in crime and go and smoke and, do all the deviant things if you have a lot of time on your hands. And so the sporting facilities and equipping those sporting facilities, that was important. The youth apprenticeship program in agriculture. When the Ministry of Agriculture decided to assist a lot of our young farmers with land, with long-term leases, with fertilizers. I saw a program just recently where they were giving fertilizers to young farmers. It is because they felt that this is an investment in feeding the nation and also empowering our young people.
Teaching them business also.
Teaching them business. I spoke about very recently about this group called Lcp Industries, and this is a group of young men, Winston Laville, Dominic Chastanet, and Jermaine Paul, young enterprising farmers who all have university degrees. They decided, we want to mechanize onion and carrot production, not just for Antigua, but for the CARICOM region. And they set up this Lcp Industries. And this group of young men, and I mean, when I talk about them, one of them, he doesn't live in my constituency, but his girlfriend lives there, so he's always there. And every time I go to campaign, I see him there. They just won the Caribbean Innovation Challenge. And what they have done is to fully mechanize their production. In fact, Winston said to me, Winston Laville, he said to me, we don't even have to touch the soil. Can you imagine that? In their farming, they don't even have to touch the soil because everything is mechanized. And they won that Caribbean Innovation Challenge as the Best Economic Entrepreneur Award.
Wow.
And this is a group of young people. This government, again, investing in young people. I feel very passionate when I see young people going into business. And that is one of the things that I, certainly as a representative of St. George, I have always, anytime a young person comes to me with an idea, I want to start this business, and I need these concessions, I need this help from the government. We have to make sure as representatives we give them a hand up.
Yes.
This government has been about hand up,
not handouts.
Not handouts.
Yes.
And that is why I have that bond with my people in St. George, because I make sure that if they come to me with an idea, I'm going to help them. Take it through cabinet, take it through the investment authority, get whatever concessions are required so that they can become successful entrepreneurs. And you have the entrepreneurial spirit in a lot of young people. You know, 2 days ago, while I was canvassing in the Pigots area, a young lady came to me and she had made some earrings, blue and yellow. I'm sorry I didn't wear them today. Blue and yellow, of course, UPP colors.
Yes.
And she said to me, this is what I do. You know, this is what I do. I use my hands. I use my creativity.
Yes.
And, you know, I said to her, you can market these things, you know. I really should have worn it today. But the entrepreneurial spirit is there, and the government creates that enabling environment for our young people to contribute to the economy.
Let's talk a little bit more about your own personal education and your empowerment. We know that you've been the face of media from 1985 to 1990 until you left for your university. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, media has always been my first love. I love communications. I love the cameras. And so when I left State College, I went straight to ABS and worked as a news anchor, news reporter, and just absolutely loved it. I was one of the first persons to start what is now modern talk shows in Antigua. Started that with the late Carl Jackson doing Feedback, a program called Feedback. And then I started a program called Justice, style kind of Oprah style, because Oprah was one of my mentors, someone that I looked up to as a broadcaster and as a talk show host. And absolutely loved my years in ABS. And so when I went off to do my first degree, I did media. Journalism was my first degree. Veered off a little when I did my master's and did Latin American and Caribbean studies, because I began to have more of an interest in international relations and in politics. But when I went back to do my PhD at McGill University, I went back to media. So I did my studies in women in the media, women in television. And certainly I feel as though I have made a significant contribution to the development of media in Antigua and Barbuda. And across the region, because I worked with the Caribbean Broadcasting Union as well. But I say to my constituents, the day that you guys don't want me anymore in politics, I am going back to my first love, which is media and communications. And before Baldwin Spencer actually approached me, our leader approached me to go into politics, I actually was contemplating a career in teaching communications and had some offers to, after I did my PhD, to come back and teach communications.
Okay, excellent. Empowerment for your own self. It's difficult. It's not. We know it's not easy being a woman in leadership and also a woman in politics. What are some of the attributes that you carried for your own empowerment, for your own advancement, and to be your propelling force to continuously exceed in whatever you apply yourself to?
Well, one of the main qualities, characteristics, you must have strength. Strength of character, strength of purpose, physical strength, of course. And certainly strength of vision, of where you want to go and where you want your community and your country to go. And I say to people all the time, my strength doesn't come from myself. It doesn't come from within only. My strength comes from above. I draw my strength. I cannot do anything without the Almighty, without God.
The truth.
And so God plays a very, very the biggest part in my life in terms of guiding me and directing me. But, you know, women have always had difficulty going into politics, going into leadership positions, because sometimes we get a little antsy about criticisms, about, you know, the negativity that comes with leadership.
Yes.
So I have developed over the years a very thick skin, very broad shoulders, and I can shake off very easily negative criticism.
Okay.
You have to be able to decipher what is constructive criticism in order to help to build you up, because you're not perfect.
Yes.
You know, and people will come with really constructive criticism. You know, you should have done it this way, or you could have done it that way, or you could have said it that way, or you could have done it, said it this way. So you have to be able to decipher what is constructive, what is meant to build you up, and what is destructive, what is political posturing, what is just pure nonsense. You just have to be discerning. And I think God has gifted me with a level of discernment. Of course, qualities of compassion. You must have compassion. You must be empathetic with people, be able to walk in a person's shoes, a single mother, you know, what it is they feel on a daily basis, what it is they have to do to survive, and how you can help people. One of the things sometimes my staff say to me is that you are generous to a fault. I mean, if you have the last $5 and somebody comes and asks you for $5, you're going to give them.
Yes.
But it is because I always say that God will provide for me. And if I can help somebody with my last $5, God will send somebody to give me 10 or 15 or 20.
Yes.
So, you know, that generosity of spirit, that compassion, that empathy is necessary as a leader, and certainly as a woman leader. I think women leaders bring a certain level of sensitivity, a certain level of compassion, which the men don't have, or they can't feel. And so those qualities are important. But that strength, that toughness, that mental, intellectual toughness, that is necessary as well. To take tough decisions, to say no when it's no, and yes when it's yes, and not always be, you know, flip-flopping.
Okay. I remember before we started rolling cameras, we were talking a little bit about testimonies, and we were talking about your faith. And I remember you shared about an incident with money that you needed to find. I didn't want to tell your story on behalf of you. I wanted you to share that yourself, and then we'll talk a little bit about your constituency.
Just to bear out the point about, you know, God providing. Because I was saying to you that, you know, in my daily life, I'm always conversing with God. I'm always talking to Him. You might see me mumbling. It's not that I'm going crazy. It's that I am communing with my God. And I was giving you the instance of that time when, you know, I needed to have $200. And you said to me, a minister don't have $200?
I did say that.
So sometimes we're dead broke. Lots of times we're dead broke. And I needed $200 to do something for my son, and the banks were closed. I just had nothing in my purse. And I said, God, please provide this, because this is the deadline. I need to pay this $200 today. And I was switching, I love handbags. So I changed my handbags a lot with my outfits. And so I was switching my handbag to another bag, putting my purse and my keys and all my, you know, makeup and so on into this other bag. And I just slipped my hand into the inner pocket of that handbag. And I found $500 in the pocket of the handbag that I put away for some reason, I believe. And I just said, "Thank you, Jesus! Thank you, Jesus!" You know, I was able to do what I needed to do with that $200. But you know, God speaks to us in so many little ways. You know, sometimes we're driving down, and I say, God, please help me to find a parking spot in town. And then just as you say that, somebody slips out and you can slip in. You know, all kinds of little ways that He speaks to us and He answers our prayers. And, you know, I, of course, have my big testimony in terms of the healing of my body. Because I spoke to you about physical strength. You need physical strength to run a campaign. And, you know, when I was diagnosed back in 2012, I prayed and I said to God, you know,
my plans.
It's your will. Thy will be done. I put my hands, my life, my political career, my body into your hands, dear God.
Yes.
And he has raised me up. He has raised me up and healed my body for such a time as this.
For such a time
to
as
serve
this.
my community of St. George.
St. George.
And to serve my country.
For such a time as this.
To serve him.
Yes.
I can't forget that.
Yes.
Because anytime I have an opportunity, and people say, you know, why you keep talking about this and that? Anytime I have an opportunity, I will sing the praises and the glory and the goodness of God from the mountaintops, because he didn't have to heal me.
But he did.
But he did.
I must say you look fabulous.
Thank you.
This is not exaggerating. I mean, really fabulous. And I can feel how your people from St. George feel, and I want to say your people. I know that they're happy to have you. I know that they're surrounding you with a lot of strength and vitality. What is the motivating factor for you? Because we're coming up on 2014 elections, and you're representing St. George again. I know that God is taking you through. Without a doubt, we know that God is taking you through because it's evident. But what is the motivating factor?
I think politics is the art of the possible. Politics is how you are able to how you are able as a representative to help people.
Yes.
And I see myself, and I say this to my constituents, I see myself as a facilitator, as a mediator to help my constituents achieve their goals and ambitions. So whether it is through jobs, whether it is through land, whether it is through providing concessions, whether it is through providing scholarships, I am their servant.
Yes.
I am there to assist them to become empowered. And I think the 10 years, the 2 terms that I've been in office, I mean, I can safely say that I have done just that. Assisted in the empowerment of the people of St. George.
Yes.
You know how good I feel. I'm very good. I'm very big on gratitude. I hate ingrates. I hate ungratefulness.
Yes.
You know how good it feels as a representative when a young couple comes to me and says, Jacqui, we are going to have the opening or the dedication of our home. That land that you gave us, you were able to allocate through the government's program. A year and a half ago or 2 years ago, we went to the bank and we built our house. And now we're having the dedication. And then I go to the dedication and I see this beautiful home. It is a sense of gratification that this UPP government would have assisted. I think now the Ministry of Agriculture is over 4,000 young people to get their own land, a piece of the rock. That's important. Yes. And so I find the relationship over the years, my constituents almost become a part of my family.
Yes.
They're almost like my extended family. You know, a lot of them, young guys in the community, they're almost like my sons.
Yes.
You know, and the young people, they gravitate towards me and so on. And we have a good relationship. I have worked with them in terms of sponsorships, football, cricket, all the sporting activities. Every year at Carnival, all of the finalists who come from St. George in Soca Monarch and the Calypso competition, I give them a sponsorship grant of $1,000 every year. I've done that for the last 10 years. Yes. And, you know, St. George is full of a lot of talented people. A lot of talent come out of St. George's, because when you look on Soca Monarch night, is at least 5 people from St. George's going to be on that stage. So, you know, they have the backing. They have the backing of their representative. And every song I know, and I make sure I support all of them. Yes. You know. But, I mean, it is the relationship that you have. Yes. Right now, the school meals program is in all of the schools of my constituency, Potters, Pigots, New Winthrops. When I started out, we would have fenced both the New Winthrop school and the Potters school. We're doing a lot of things in terms of building the entrepreneurial spirit in Pigots. When we had the 2008 World Cup, we set up these booths in Pigots, and up to now, that is a hive of activity, creating business opportunities for a lot of people who sell and ply their trade on the weekends and so on. And we have done a similar thing in Potters, and that facility is soon to be opened. So we have done a lot of things in the community, particularly where it relates to the young people of the community. And one of the things I want to say, one of the things that needs to be completed, the Barnes Hill Clinic had been a sore point for a lot of people in that community. There was some back and forth with Public Works in terms of whether the building should have been demolished and so on. Now they decided on building a brand new clinic. The construction work is going on. We're up to the roof in terms of that new clinic. And one of the things I have said to the people of this community, when that clinic opens, we are going to make sure that there's a satellite pharmacy there, in keeping with the UPP's policy initiative to have satellite pharmacies so that the people of my community can fill their prescriptions right in their community. Also, extended hours. As you know, the Ministry of Health has embarked on that, so that even up until 7:30, 8 o'clock in the evening, you can have clinic services right in your community. So I am going to make sure that that happens in the Barnes Hill Clinic. Pigots Clinic, a lot of people don't know this, but there is a room that was built for a pharmacy in the Pigots Clinic. And I am making representation now with Medical Benefits Scheme to ensure that a satellite pharmacy goes into the Pigots Clinic as well. You know, so there are lots of things that we are still working on, but we have a very good relationship with the people of the St. George's constituency. The Prime Minister likes to say he has a love affair with the people of Grays Green community. I have a love affair with the people of my St. George's, and they know they can come to me, they can count on me, and a promise is a promise whenever they get it from their representative.
Madam Minister, you're on the program Your Right to Know, Our Pleasure to Tell. You are up for 2014 elections. Should you be re-elected to serve another 5 years, would you like to remain in your Ministry of Education, Youth and Gender Affairs, or would you want to up to another ministry?
Well, you know, education has always been my first love. And when we won the election, I'll make a confession to you and to the listeners. When we won the election in 2004, I wanted to go to education. But of course, you go where the Prime Minister sends you, and you grow where you are planted. So I worked in information for a short while, and then I was moved to labor and public administration. But education has always been my first love. So in our third term, when the UPP, notice I said when
I like that.
When the UPP is re-elected by the people of Antigua and Barbuda, I would certainly like to go back into education and to complete many of the things that I have talked about that are ongoing. The Five Islands School, the Tomlinson School, the University of Antigua and Barbuda, building on USC, reclassification of teachers, which we have just completed. So there are a number of things that I'd like to certainly complete. And I love education. I really love education. Except that my constituents say, next time you're going Public Works, because we want...
I can answer that. I think I can answer why they want you to go to Public Works, right?
Yes. But I do like education and would love to continue in education. And my staff, the other day, Mrs. Pringle said to me, we want you back here.
So you are needed and you have been planted. You know, as we wrap up today's program, do you have any advice, statement, or last word that you'd want to, you know, extend to those at home watching and listening to our program today? Is there anything else that you'd want to add to reiterate your purpose and how you've been serving not only the people of St. George, but also Antigua and Barbuda?
Yes. I think Antiguans and Barbudans have a very a big decision to make come election day, whenever the Prime Minister decides to call the election. But what the people, when we say leadership matters as a party, when we say leadership matters, it encompasses a whole plethora of things. Competence, professionalism, integrity matters. God-fearing, a God-fearing leader. All of those things matter. Compassion matters. So when we talk about leadership, we are talking about a full package for persons, right-thinking Antiguans and Barbudans to make a decision based on what the UPP has offered over the last 10 years, how we've been able to lift the name of Antigua and Barbuda, how we have been able to move this economy in very difficult and trying times. People don't understand that what we went through with the crash of the financial market, it was worse than the Great Depression, or on par with the Great Depression. And so what the Honorable Dr. Court and Honorable Harold Lovell would have done in terms of bolstering the economy with the programs and policies that we would have implemented in the 2004 to 2009 and then 2009 to now has been phenomenal. And we talk about UPP now more than ever. We are talking about a government that will continue to build on the achievements, on the accomplishments, on all of the hopes and aspirations of the people of Antigua and Barbuda. I mean, we have just implemented the CIP, the Citizenship by Investment Program, which is going to see many investors coming into Antigua. We have just signed an MOU with Gordon Butch Stewart, which is going to see a first-class. I mean, Butch Stewart says that this project has never been seen anywhere in the world. Wow. The New Beaches project that he's so there are lots of things, all the things that I've spoken to you about in education that we are going to be working on in this our third term. We say to the people of Antigua and Barbuda, hold the strain with us, keep the faith with us, and let us continue along a path of a well-run, God-fearing nation. And I do not say that lightly, a God-fearing nation. Let us keep Antigua and Barbuda in safe hands and sane hands.
Ladies and gentlemen, we've been speaking with the Minister of Education, Youth and Gender Affairs, Honorable Jacqui Quinn Leandro. For this segment of Your Right to Know, Our Pleasure to Tell, I am Malika Muffet, and also known as Nikki to our minister. So join us again for another segment of Your Right to Know, Our Pleasure to Tell.